I grew up in India. I was born in India. I grew up in Kashmir. Then I moved to Kenya, and then here mostly. You know, leading up to even now, Kinoya being open, everything about this journey has been very organic. I just wanted something that was really casual, but at the same time, there was a lot of heart put into it. It wasn't a cookie cutter. It was very specific to, you know, like someone's personality came through it. And, you know, Kinoya really is the amalgamation of all the things that I've loved about Japan, all the things I love about, you know, immersive experience, which is a dining experience. And I think it's a collective of that. I never meant to build it, it just happened. And I think my take from that is people like watching people do something that they love. Japanese is, and then on top of it, it's not Japanese as we kind of know it mainstream. It's ramen, so it's very specific. That idea still is quite new to Dubai. So it's hard to get inspiration necessarily from where you are in the city, but I think it comes more from what other food, you know, other chefs in the city are doing as well. That's inspiring. From very early age, I knew where food came from. My dad is from part of India where we eat a lot of fish. He would take me on the Abra and we'd cross over and we'd go to Shindaga, where the fish market used to be before. And a lot of my, you know, love for food comes from him. You know, we'd go to the fish market together. We would go to the vegetable market together. And back then you had little bodegas, but you didn't have supermarkets. So you'd have to go to little vendors and suppliers to get your produce, and you know, you developed a relationship with them. So that sense of community, that sense of knowing where your food comes from was, you know, very much prominent back then, and it stayed with me. In the winter, I'll always make a day where, you know, I do the whole route of Dubai, Dera, go to the fish market, go to the spice souk, because they're just so, it's not only nostalgic, but it also brings you back to being very close to what you're doing. So I think it's little things. When I go back to the creek, you know, you don't think about things like that day to day, but it does come back of how grateful I am that I was able to enjoy days and moments like that with my father. As much as I can, you know, my kids are very grounded, considering that Dubai can kind of wrap you up in a lot of, you know, glitz and shiny things. The whole concept of you can enjoy things without having to be very extravagant, that's very instilled in them, which comes from my father. So yeah, I think trying to do the same thing. There are institutions that I still try and kind of explain to my children what they were, like Al-Mala, a shawarma there. And I give it to my kids now and they're like, what's the big deal, it's a shawarma. And I'm like, it's not just a shawarma, it's an Al-Mala shawarma. One of the things I do love about Dubai is that it's kept that balance of old and new, and they both had a place to be. They were not fine dining restaurants. There were no, there was no finesse. It was just very, very home comfort food, which I still love. And I think Dubai it's one of the best cities for food from all over the world done very authentically. I mean, even for myself, when I'm thinking about the restaurant and developing our menu, I try and remember that concept of keep the old, but then introduce the new slowly into that as well. I think that's the key. I love process-led food, so I think what I will do at home, I think it's another form of noodle making, is I love making homemade pasta. That's what I love making for my kids. And then just lots of seafood, because we have so much good access to it here. But yeah, and then of course my father's traditional recipes that I grew up on.
So my normal routine for when people are coming over, which is such a luxury for me, and I do love having people over, or cooking for my family. I kind of, you know, really relax, sharp, plan the day around it. And then I get in my kitchen. I always take my watch off, so I have no concept of time. Because it's still summer, I'm gonna make a really nice light summer dinner. So we're gonna have steak with chimichurri, we're going to have some oysters from Dubai, we're going to have some garlic prawns in really nice house-made pasta. Yeah, it's just going to be really light but really flavorful. Some burrata, some local burrata with some nice tomatoes, some organic sea bass on the grill. So lots of things.
I think when when you create an atmosphere for people, you hope that they understand what you wanted to achieve out of it, and that is good food, comfort, an evening they can, easygoing that they can remember. But I think more than that, you want to put yourself in their shoes. I mean, I always try and think, what if I'm the customer? What would I want? And I think everybody, including the whole team, tries to emulate that. Every time we see a diner, we want to make sure that how would we want it to be if it was us? I don't know how many creative people feel this way, but I think that you've got your blinkers on when you're doing something and you found something that you really love. So I'm so grateful that people loved the ramen and responded to it. Of course, Kinoya is first priority. I just want to make sure that, we keep the standards growing, stabilize, teams happy, keep doing what we're doing every day, better and better every day. And then after that, I think I'm always open. I think it's so much nicer to not know where things are going and take its natural course. Let's see.